Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Card Advantage podcast. We are recording Thursday, February 10th, 9:25 p.m. This is episode number 46, joined by my ever so wordy co-host, Bunk. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I am fantastic. Thank you for the same response that you've given me for the last 32 weeks in a row. Yeah, we
I gotta
got.
start prepping those.
Yeah, you have to maybe write something
Gotta be
out.
fake.
Give me a little something. Well, hey buddy, how are you? Like, something. What's going on in your life? The people want to know, about Bunk.
Nah, they don't want to know that my work week sucks, and this is the best part of the week as far as work goes. Although it's not
Yeah,
really work.
yeah, true. All right, so we got a hodgepodge of an episode for you guys today. We're gonna be talking about a bunch of things. We don't really have a quote unquote main topic. Just a couple of small things that are going on. NBA trade deadline, talking some baseball, which is up and coming. Hopefully, if the MLB and the CBA gets done. Some scheduled releases, talking about some football product, and yeah, one interesting what if question. It's a new segment for this podcast, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start talking?
I don't know. I'm just gonna try to be the glue to hold this together today.
You're gonna be the
It
glue to
could be
hold us
bumpy. Could be
together.
bumpy.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. All right, let's start out hot. Let's come out of the chute hot. Let's talk we're gonna call him the hobby daddy. Decided to sit down and scold all the children. Jeff from Sports Card Investor sat down, made a 25-minute video basically talking about how much drama is going on in the hobby and how it's ruining the hobby and how everything needs to go back to the way it was and be pure and for the children and this and that. And I mean, I appreciate the sentiment of the video. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, there's all kinds of bad actors in the hobby these days, from marks and bankruptcy and fraud and stealing and all this stuff. But I I don't know. I don't know if you've seen the video, but in my opinion, like he basically sat down and said, "Kids, you're acting up and it's time for you to get your shit together." And it's just like, dude, we don't need that.
Shut up.
Yes,
That's what I have to say to that. Shut up.
exactly. It's like I appreciate that you have a squeaky clean image and you are one of the largest mouthpieces, voices in the hobby at this point, but it's like, dude, part of the reason why the hobby is the way it is because of you. You are one of the people that brings in bad actors, and it's not intentional, but by you putting this out there as far as like, here's how you make money from cards, and this is all the exciting things that are going on. The hobby exploded. It made your name, you become a hobby household name, but it also helped the hobby grow 20, 30, 40x and brought in some of these bad people. So it's just
Yeah, and listen, you already know you make a video like that, and while to your point, the underlying premise is great. I don't disagree with half the stuff he said, but when you post something like that, the majority, yeah, you'll get the comments, yeah, good for you, I agree, blah blah. The majority of people are just gonna troll the heck out of it, and
and and I'm not trying to be a troll, but it's like you can't have things both ways. One of the first things that we talked about on this podcast 46 episodes ago was that this is no longer a hobby and this is a business, and I will keep banging the fuck out of this drum until as long as this stuff keeps coming up, because anytime you have money, as far as like large purchases, big ticket items, you're going to get fraud. You're going to get people that are going to try to take advantage of the system. And it's just a matter of, you doing your homework. And it's just a matter of you trying to prevent yourself from getting scammed. But I didn't need a 25-minute lecture about how it's for the kids, and that's it's ruining ruining the future of their hobby. It's like, not really. It's not hard to shelter your kids from some of this stuff, and bring them to shows and monitor the content that they're watching, and they'll have no idea that it's going on.
Yeah, I mean, but again, you're still missing the. I don't disagree that it's big business, but the majority of people who don't care what he had to say, you're the majority of the people that are still keeping this whole thing going are your true hobbyists and collectors, and they don't really care what he has to say. They'll agree with him because he's not wrong, but
Keeping what whole thing going? The
uh,
sports card industry?
yeah,
So you think that the reason why the sports card industry continues to plug along and do as well as it's
it's
doing?
because 95% of the people involved in it are collectors and involved in that space, and not all just trying to make a buck.
I will take the under on that 95% number.
I don't know what the hell the number is, but it's high.
I
I know you just gloss over the people that collect, but they're still the majority, the far majority of the hobby, whether you want to agree with it or not. But to your point about him, I don't need hobby gatekeepers and people getting up on pedestals all the time because they just make me want to turn you off because I don't care what you know. I get it. We all get it.
yeah.
We just choose to ignore it. And then you coming out and bringing light to it all just makes it worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, the people that are acting up are gonna look at that video and say, "Huh, you know what? This guy's right. Lesson learned." It's never gonna get worse.
oh, I shouldn't be trying to scam people and trim cards and get over on people to make a buck. Thank you so much for pointing that out and telling me that that's what I shouldn't be doing. And it's, I would agree. It's just like, we all get it. If you would have come out and said, hey, here are some of the things that are going on, and this is what you need to look out for, and this is how you keep yourself out of trouble, like, awesome. That's completely cool. And, to try to help people learn more, and, because obviously he does a great job of that, educating people, putting out good content.
100%.
But
100%.
it's like, step back for a second here and like cut the shit. Like, we're all adults, and
Yeah, we didn't have like hobby elections, and
yeah. Well,
you're in charge of this sector.
I know that he's very polarizing. Like, I think there's people who either love him and think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then there's people that despise him. I know there's another very popular podcast where the host of that podcast absolutely despises him, and they make reference to that from time to time, and it's just like, you stay in your space, I'll stay in my space, but don't become, you know a lecturer, and don't tell me what to do. Basically, it's just, we don't need that in the hobby. Keep people alert, educate people, helps keep them out of trouble, and other than that, shut the fuck up. And
You didn't like getting scolded.
no, I didn't. Like, I only made it through the first like 5 or 6 minutes of it. And the only reason why I watched it was because I was watching some of Ryan from Collector Two's content on Instagram. He's like, "Hey, Jeff made this fantastic video about the state of the hobby," and so I clicked on it and started watching it. And I was just like, "Fuck!" And I made it through the first like 5 to 6 minutes, and then skimmed through the rest. And I was like, "Yeah, this is ridiculous."
Right, and again, the majority of people agree with them, but they just filter out the garbage on social media involved with this. So I don't
Or
know. I don't
or
see the
or
point
they're
in it.
old like you and haven't figured out how to use Instagram yet.
You cut out for a second, or they're old like what? I'm
Oh,
making an old joke.
I said, or they're old like you and they haven't figured out how to use Instagram.
Man, I'm not bad. I stare at a button for about only 8 seconds now before I make sure it's the right one on there.
I don't
But I
even know
still don't know what
I,
I'm
don't-
doing.
I don't even know what that means. What button are you staring at to make sure it's the right one to do what?
Like on Instagram, like I don't know how to post right away. Like I don't know, just boom, 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 boom. I have to like, I don't, I have to like, okay, if I hit this, am I okay? That kind
Holy
of stuff on Instagram.
mother of God.
Yeah, it's bad.
The
It's
plus
bad.
button, and then you type your stuff and you hit the little arrow until it says post. I mean, it's
Yeah, Instagram's really not my thing.
I got it. We'll keep you. We'll keep you on the Twitter. All
Yeah.
right. Any other comments on the wonderful world of Jeff from Sports Card Investor?
No, the majority of folks will just keep on trucking like we do anyway, and ignore all that other crap.
That is true. The majority of you hobby collectors and me hobby investors slash flippers. Moving right along to another piece of interesting, record-setting type of news. There's a couple of record-setting cards this week. Number one, you had the Dominguez 1 of 1 go for $475,000. I know there's this, we launched late in the week, so everybody and their mother has talked about this already, but we'll throw it out there. I know obviously you're a Yankee fan. What do you think as far as paying $500,000 for uh 1 of 1 guy who literally has never taken a major league at bat?
I mean, for the majority of us, it's absurd. But if you have disposable income that you don't give a crap, I'm pretty sure that the individual who bought this didn't mortgage their house to acquire it and are banking on him to change his absurd strikeout rates in the minors this year. But
Uh,
based on what I've seen so far, I mean, Dominguez took a little step back. Granted, he was hyped through the roof, so you had nowhere to go but down at that point. But
so I
yeah,
mean
it's an absurd amount of money for someone who hasn't even taken a major league at bat yet.
that's the question. Is like if he comes up in 2 or 3 years or whatever it's going to be, and, and he's not hitting 320 with 40 home runs, and he hits 275 with 19 home runs in his first year. I mean, where do you go with a card
If
like that? I
No,
mean,
but well, here's what this is what I'd be banking on if I had the money to buy that. I'd be banking on they're gonna try to progress him through the minors quickly, so long as he's showing some sort of skill set. The second he comes up, makes his debut at 21, 22, and any kind of hot streak, any kind of hype of the call up, his first home run, that card will sell
yeah,
because people still be in on it. To your point, if he 25 years old and he's still averaging 270, whatever, you're still sitting on that card, you're in trouble.
you're fucked.
But I think if you capitalize on the hype early, I think you might be able to get a return on it.
I mean, best guess. I mean, this is the 22 season. Do you think 2024 is when you first see him?
What is he? He's 19, 2022, 20. It's possible.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what the Yankees' plans are. I mean, they haven't really called up. I mean, I think the last person they called up super young was Melky Cabrera. He might have been 21 or 22 in his major league debut, if I'm not mistaken. But they usually don't call guys up ridiculously early.
well, I mean, he
I'm
he
sure
may
someone will
he
point out an example I'm forgetting, but
yeah, he may be the exception. All right, yeah. I mean,
yeah, I mean, listen, if he hits, you're gonna see him, I think, sooner than later.
yeah. Obviously, everybody's gonna have their eye on him in the minors, and if he can get it together, he had definitely had a disappointing season last year, and he had the showcase game that he went like 0 for 2 or 0 for 3 in with a few
Yeah, he
strikeouts.
whiffed it, yeah.
Yeah,
And then someone posted, I remember many months ago, someone posted like Wander Franco's stat line through the same amount of at bats at the beginning, and Dominguez is striking out at like an absurd rate that Wander just didn't.
yeah.
So, for whatever that's worth.
They're both 5'10". That's a
Yeah,
throwback reference. So speaking of $475,000, there was a Honus Wagner card that was literally ripped in half, or not ripped in half, but basically torn in half, where there was half a card that was authenticated as real that sold for also or right around $475,000. I think it was like maybe 473 or something like that. Which card would you rather have? Half a Honus wet for 475 grand. Would you rather have the Dominguez 1 of 1 or half a Honus?
I'd go with half a Honus, honestly. I mean, it's a no-brainer, half a Hone. I mean, if you in terms of an investment, you want the Honus Wagner.
Yeah,
Its value is its value. It's established. It's not changing much.
I just
That
don't.
that Dominguez card, could be worth less than $1,000 one day.
I mean, my question is, I mean, unless you're buying it as an investment, what the fuck are you buying half a baseball card for? You can't display
Because
that.
it's one of the most iconic cards ever. How many of them exist?
Yeah, I get that, but is that really like for $500,000? Is that really like where you're gonna like what you're gonna display? Like, because unless you're buying it and you're gonna hope it goes up in value and flip it a few years down the road for more money, which I get. You know, if I feel like it can do that with fucking shit in a box, I'll do that. But if you're buying it as a collector and as a piece that has importance to you, what are you doing with half a baseball card?
Why not? It's rare, isn't it?
It's half a baseball card.
Who cares? It's a Honus Wagner tobacco card.
I
It's as
don't
cool as it
I
gets.
don't know. I understand. I'm gonna really push your button on this one, but I'd rather if I'm gonna display anything, give me a freaking reprint of a full card versus
Oh
half of
God,
a fake card. I mean,
nothing
half of a
reprint.
real card, because it's like I'm gonna put it at what am I? Put it out on my desk or hang it on my wall. It's half a baseball card.
I don't know what else to tell you. It's half of a Honus Wagner T206.
I mean, everybody talks about Honus Wagner, but like, can anybody name like? Can you give me career stats for Wagner? Was he even that good?
Oh my God, no, I can't give you career stats for it. But to be fair, there are a lot of guys in the hall from that era that
That's what I'm
that
saying. It's like
maybe shouldn't be. But
everybody's on
I don't think that's the case with Honus Wagner.
everybody's on his nuts, and he's like the greatest thing since sliced bread. But like, what were his numbers?
I'm like, do you want me to look up his numbers right
Yes,
now?
I mean,
This is
we
what
might
you
as
want?
well. We're going down this rabbit hole. We might as well go all
Oh
the
my
way in.
God. Well, the best baseball site in the entire world,
He was a
baseballreference.com.
328 hitter, and he had 101 career home runs in fucking 21 seasons.
Right, but nobody hit home runs back then.
He had a shit ton of doubles. I guess if you're counting doubles as home runs back then, he was good. He led the league in doubles like 12 times.
Guy, he had almost 900 doubles and triples.
That's a lot, I would assume.
That's a crazy amount.
All right, so he was pretty good.
3,400 hits, I think. Something like that. He's up there.
Yeah, he played forever though. He played for 21 years. All right, so he's good, but you still, I don't know. We don't need to rant on it. I will now introduce the section of this podcast that is a bit, I guess, a bit of a what if question or predicting the future. Since we're on the topic of vintage sports cards, um,
Okay.
do you think that vintage sports cards are a good long-term investment? And when I say long-term, I'm talking 25 to 30 years from now.
Okay.
Because will people give a shit about Honus Wagner, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle in 25 years? With the factors being A, the younger generation has no idea who they are. B, the evolution of technology and digital product. So, will anybody care about a T206, 1952 mantle in 30 years from now?
Yeah, and even more so because it's going to be even older and even more scarce and hard to find. We talk about all the time investing in things that are more scarce and stuff. I totally get. I've often
But
thought like
if all the
my
people that
dad and my grandfather always talked about Mickey Mantle. They saw Mickey Mantle, and I'm like, well, man,
but
my
when
kids they're not even gonna know who Mickey Mantle are, but they're going to hear from me. But eventually, I agree with you. People are like, well, I don't know who these guys are, so
okay,
why am I going to even look it up to buy?
so your kids are little league age
Yep,
right now.
yep.
And if I walked into your house tomorrow and I said, "Who is Mickey Mantle?" Would they be able to
He would.
tell me?
My son would tell you he was an old Yankee. Yes.
Okay. So
That's that, but that'd be the extent of it.
so my question is, in 35 years, when hopefully your son is a wealthy man, is he going to give a shit about Mickey Mantle?
Yeah, because it's valuable and going to be very scarce. It's still. I think vintage. So what are we going to do? We're going to totally forget about the players that we never saw, and now we're going to focus in what in like the '90s and 2000s, and that's like the new. There's 100 times more production in that era. So now I'm going to look at
But does somebody
Frank
like
Thomas and Ken Griffey as these ultra rare pieces
or
compared to.
does somebody like Tom Brady become the mantle of 35 years from now? I mean,
I think that's accurate. I think he will. I think he'll be one of the newer iconic symbols, but I don't think the other one's going away. I don't think they're disappearing.
I don't know. I mean, I hate to sound like the old man, but the younger generations are different. There's different
A
things.
100%. Yeah, I
There's
get it.
different things that are going on right now that haven't gone on in the past. And the technology in 25 years, who the hell knows what it's going to be, as far as like what type of digital collectibles that there are. I don't. I just have a hard time wrapping my head around, the kids these days that are 10, 15 years old that are going to be, the guys that have the big dollars when they're 50 years old that are going to give a shit about something that's over 100 years old. Um, yeah,
Rare pieces are rare pieces. They will never go away. They will never lose interest, no
I don't
matter
know.
who it
I
is.
mean, everybody always makes the claim that like sports cards are art and yada yada. I mean, obviously, some of the art pieces out there that are hundreds of years old from famous artists, still retain popularity. But I just feel like engaging in like a generational shift.
Now, what
And
what I might agree with you with is, and we've already starting to see it as we kind of were speculating, like where all the basketball prices, where's all the money going? And you made a good point about potentially where that money's going right now. I I could see if all this new digital stuff and this kind of stuff's evolving, and we're only in the infancy of that stuff, if it survives, if that's where the interest and money goes, then I don't think people forget about those pieces, but maybe you're not driving up the prices like
yeah,
I'm
well,
saying because of that,
that's what
because
I'm
you got
saying.
money in all these new spaces. But I don't think people not give a crap or forget about or devalue.
They'll still sell, but will they sell for the value that they're at now? And that's my whole thing. It's like if I'm buying right now and I'm 50 years old and I'm putting stuff away for my future generations and yada yada, and I want sports card alternative asset type stuff to be involved in that. Am I looking at some of these older pieces? Is a 1954 Hank Aaron that is in fantastic condition that I can get today for $25,000, 30, $40,000, whatever the price is? Is it going to be that in 30 years? Is it going to be more, or is it
I
going to be stagnant?
I think in 30 years it still will be, but I think maybe longer away from that. I think maybe your point comes together.
I mean, because this will be the first time when a generation, basically when our parents' generation dies off, that as far as the hobby is concerned, that the generation that kept some of this stuff alive is gone because there was no baseball cards, of any really noteworthy before like the Honus Wagner Babe Ruth generation. And then but those people, like, I mean, our parents were still old enough, or are old enough to carry that torch. But in 15 years, I mean, unfortunately, that generation is mostly gone. So
Yeah.
I think that's really going to be a potential pivot point for the market as far as vintage is concerned.
Yeah, it's like yeah. I think what you're trying to say is like, at what point do we stop seeing every 6 weeks new record sale, new record sale, new record sale, and then it kind of just levels out for a while. I think is what you're
Yeah,
getting at.
I
So
mean, and not in the modern, but in the vintage stuff. At what point does it
yeah,
hit a diminishing point of return, and there's the interest dies,
yeah.
and
Well, I just saw on Collectible they just had a buyout on a 54. I think it was a 54 tops Ernie Banks PSA 9, and it went up. Somebody bought it out for a tremendous amount
oh
more than
yeah,
the
I mean,
initial offering. I
yeah,
mean,
I mean,
it's still
I think
strong.
vintage still has a 10 or 15 year run, but I think at some point after that, I mean, I think you're going to start to see it decrease because 50-year-olds right now were born in the 70s. They
Yeah,
didn't
I
see any of these guys play.
comparatively speaking, we are still overproducing compared to that time. And look at all the cards that were thrown out. I mean, we really don't even know the scarcity in some of these things simply because they were disposed of or lost or damaged or thrown away. So So as long as people still have interest in the scarcity and value, the scarcity of it, I think it has a longer run than you think. But I mean, I see your point later on.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Obviously, there's no right answer. We can't see the future,
Of course.
so it's definitely something to think about here. Um, all right, cool. We'll move on to some of the investment stuff that we have for this week. I forgot to do Sports Card Advantage business at the top of the podcast. I was so revved up and ready to go. So just for everybody's knowledge, if you want to follow us on social media, Sports Card ADVTG, Twitter, Instagram. If you have any questions for us, want to get anything mentioned on the show, send us an email, info@sportscardadvantage.com. All right. So we are recording this the day, I believe this is the last day of the NBA trade deadline. Is that
It
accurate?
ended 7 hours ago,
Yeah,
sir.
7 hours ago. Perfect. So we're gonna go over hobby relevant NBA trades. There definitely were a couple. So I'm gonna pop into CBS and walk through. Biggest deal was the James Harden Ben Simmons trade. Obviously there's other pieces in this deal. 76ers get Harden, Nets get Ben Simmons. I think those two guys are pretty much the big guys that are hobby relevant. So we'll pull up some cards here. Honestly, I really think that Harden's value may see a little bit of a bump. He gets paired up with Embiid. Hopefully, he's in a happier situation. But I think unless he does any kind of damage in the playoffs, I don't foresee tremendous hobby bumps. Looking at his 2009 tops PSA 10 rookie card. This thing's been on a downward slope since the end of last year. Went from 1850 to last sale of 1085. So you're talking 45% decline. Um, I think it's all going to depend on if he and Embiid can show that they're playing well together and they can make a run in the playoffs and or potentially try to win a championship. Otherwise, I don't think you get a ton of bump on Harden. His PSA 9 very affordable. So if you think if you see that they're going to be able to make a run, um, it's his PSA 9 is $213, pop 889. So it's super affordable. And there's also a really good bottom that's built in on the chart at the $215 level. There's not a whole lot of downside past that, at least in the last 3 months. And if you
Do
look
you
at
think?
the last year, this card at one point sold for 1,800, and we're now at $213. I don't think you got a lot more to go below this, as far as potential downside risk. So, even if you go back to before the massive surge in 2020, this card was still doing like $240.
I mean, does being on his third team in 14 months hurt?
It obviously doesn't help, but he didn't want to be in Brooklyn, and he didn't want to be in Houston. So hopefully he wants to be in Philly, and if him and Embiid get it going, they're going to be a very difficult duo to stop. The question is, does Philly have enough depth in order to win?
Well, if I remember correctly, when he was trying to get out of Houston, I think he wanted to be a Sixer at that time, and the Nets ended up landing him. I think that was his hope at the time was to get there. Not that he was dictating that now per se, but
Well, now he
I'm
wanted to
pretty
be.
sure that's he wanted to be with the Sixers then.
Yeah, he wanted to be out of Brooklyn. He just didn't want to make a beef about it because he made a beef to get out of Houston. So,
Yeah.
but as far as the value on this PSA 9 card, if you have any kind of thoughts as far as him being able to make a run and do anything in the playoffs, you should, no financial advice here, but you should have minimal downside risk for where it is if you can get one. Population's low, price is low, and this thing has done nothing but go down, and then it leveled out at that like 200 to $220 level as of last November. It's traded in a very tight range, and it hasn't dipped below $200. The other big name in that trade was Ben Simmons. Simmons obviously had the one awful playoff appearance, for Philly, and then they were trying to unload him, and they didn't get what they wanted, and they finally did. Simmons is interesting. He's going to the Nets. Obviously, Nets have Kyrie. They have Durant. Simmons adds a defensive piece to that. Nets have a lot of depth. Nets have a strong chance to come out of the East, provided everybody's healthy. Simmons, silver, PSA 10, low pop, 136, $1,100. I don't know how much value he has as a player, but his stuff is definitely, it's also created a bottom at like a $700 level, and then last couple sales have jumped. I think you'll also see a little bump here, and then it's just a matter of how much he's bringing to the table. Is he helping them win? Is he showing up in the box score as far as whether or not his card has any kind of value?
Well, I'm not no basketball guru, but I don't think they're looking for him to score a boatload of points per game. I think they just want him to be an elite defender. They got
Yep.
they got pure scorers all over the place, and
Yep.
they added Curry to that mix, so
Yep.
they have no problem scoring if he can just be the elite defender. Because from listening to
Are
sports
you
talk radio
are you
around here.
reading this guy? Because
No,
that may be
no.
the most intelligent basketball statement you've ever made.
Well, I have the advantage of listening to because I work in Jersey and live in Pennsylvania. I get New York talk radio half the ride. I get Philly talk radio the other half of the ride. So I have knowledge on these two teams. I've been listening to Ben Simmons in the Philadelphia area for the last 6 months. People trying to get rid of him.
Yeah.
So everyone's excited in Philly land now to bring in Harden. I mean, they're pretty much pushing it all in at this point. That the Sixers have been awful forever, and they've been rebuilding, and we're supposed to be good now forever. And they're just hoping this is the last piece. So
Yeah. I
it'd
mean,
be great if they met in the playoffs, though.
yeah, that would be. I mean,
That would
obviously
be
they're
cool.
both Eastern Conference teams, so I mean, Sixers are interesting. Yeah, obviously you got Maxi, who has some hobby relevance. You have Joel Embiid, and now Harden. So they could be interesting. In the Nets, the Nets are deep, and the East. You have Milwaukee, and you have, I don't know who else is really going to challenge them if they're healthy. So. Who else do we got? We'll just run through some of the rest of these trades. Porzingis got traded to the Wizards. I don't think that has a ton of hobby value. I mean, I don't, there's not a ton
Does
of.
he have any hobby value?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, obviously there's some Porzingis cards out there that have some value, but I don't know. I don't think that we really need to talk much about it. Celtics acquired Daniel Theis for Dennis Schroeder. Nothing there. Goran Dragic and Tad Young. Nothing there. Suns acquired some role players, which could have some nice impact for Booker if they can win a title. That's fairly important. Um,
And they've just been dominating to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, Suns are tearing it up out west, and now that the Lakers are pretty much non-existent as far as
But they're
LeBron.
a bunch of old men.
Yeah, I mean,
They played like old men.
West is wide open. Um, so Therese Halliburton, who has hobby relevance, he was in last year's draft class. Definitely, I mean, he got traded to the Pacers, but the Pacers are garbage. So I don't think that unless the Pacers can play better in future seasons, that really has too much of an impact on his stuff. The other big trade was CJ McCollum went from Portland to the Pelicans, New Orleans. that's going to have an impact on Zion. So hopefully for those of you that are like us and are sitting on some Zion cards that you're waiting for this market to return, that Zion comes back and he can play with McCollum and do some damage and potentially get the Pelicans in the playoffs.
Are we gonna see Zion this year?
I don't
I
know.
haven't seen an update since we talked about it a couple months ago.
There's not a ton out there if you want to do a quick search, see if there's any updates, but I haven't seen any updates in the last couple weeks when they said that he was like up in Seattle or wherever the hell he was rehabbing. Zion right now, his market has seen, this trade with McCollum happened a couple of days ago. There's been no effect whatsoever. His Prism PSA 10 silver still at $1,500. So it's honestly, it's all going to come down to whether or not he can get back on the court. If you really want to take a flyer on Zion, you can get his silver PSA 9 for probably like $300. So that may be something that you can, take a flyer on.
No Zion news that I saw.
Yeah.
Plus, all the headlines are just dominating the trade. So
yeah.
So what happens to Dame Lillard now? That team's gonna be terrible or no?
Yeah, Portland's awful anyway. And now that it's just Lillard by himself, I'm not a basketball wizard by any means, but I don't know who else they have on that team. I'm gonna try to do a quick little look here. Portland roster.
No one I'll be able to name.
Eric Bledsoe, Keldon Blevins, Greg Brown, LV Hart, Lillard. Yeah. I'm at a loss here for the most part. So, they're 22 and 34 now. They lost their second best player, arguably. So I would imagine they're just going to continue to sink. And Lillard's hobby value, it all depends on whether or not you think he's cemented enough in his career to, to keep whatever value he's got left, and or whether or not he gets traded and eventually winds up on a better team to try to win the title.
Yeah, well, we've seen in the past, most of your talking heads, they all value how many titles does the dude have when they're putting them in rank order. So
yeah, Lillard's been a rock, for the most part, as far as he's played 75, 80 games a year for most of his career. He's averaging 25 points over the course of 6, 7, 8, like 10 seasons. So, but Lillard's never really been exciting in the hobby. He's never really had like those big value cards that people get super excited about.
Right.
So I just consider, unless he can get out of there, and go somewhere else, I don't see it. Granted, his PSA 10 silver is $4,800. So maybe I will stand corrected on that. But the pop is 33, which is probably why it's so expensive.
See, that's scarcity.
Yes, that is scarcity. So, just a question of whether or not him being on a bad team for the last 3 years of his career, if he doesn't get traded, whether or not that value stays or whether or not that value will come down.
What else we got, guy?
The next part of the show is yours, my friend. It's a baseball extravaganza. I believe you have an investment for us, and then talking about a product that Topps is bringing back, and then running down some of this year's rookies that people can look out for. And when we say rookies, guys that are actually going to be designated as rookies with the RC on the card, not just guys who have cards out. Because for some of us who aren't all that familiar with baseball and the hobby part of baseball, you can also run people down a basic education on what constitutes a rookie versus first Bowman and all these other things when they get their first cards when they're like 17 years old.
Oh God, you already covered that guy, and I already forgot it all.
Well, you can
Uh,
cover it again, I guess, because I don't remember.
you
um.
forgot the I forgot it all part. Where do we
Uh.
start? Yeah, so Tops is bringing back. We'll start there. I mean, well, we'll talk Tops flagship coming out next week. But Tops is bringing back Tops Pristine. I think it was 20 years ago was the first Pristine release. I think they had a from 2002 to 2005. Really cool looking cards. As part of the box and the packs, they had uncirculated cards of varying numbers. They're just really cool, really clean looking cards, and they're bringing it back. And I'm looking at the checklist now. Some really cool dual autographs in there. Some really nice patch autographs in there.
Yeah,
Um,
the look of these is awesome. I have it up on the screen. So for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, the card design is fantastic, and it has little TP logo in the upper left hand corner.
Yeah, and they didn't go nuts on the parallels. I mean, there's a lot, but they kept it pretty clean and pretty simple. You got your standard parallels. You got the ones that'll be in the nice case, uncirculated. I got a ton of those. They weigh a ton from 2002, three, etc. But yeah, they're really cool. I like every so many years they look back and they see, okay, what have we done, and they bring it back. I think Pristine will be pretty popular.
Yeah, I'm looking at a card right now that's a badass dual auto of Trout and Otani.
Yeah, that's nice.
This thing's awesome.
That's nice. Do you happen to see? And I was looking for it. Is there? I wanted to see what the boxes were going to go for.
$3.99 it looks like.
What am I getting in there? Am I getting one pack of four cards, or
Hold
do I get to rip a
hold
bit?
on. Let me find it. Here we go. I brought it up on Steel City. Shout out Steel City. This is not an advertisement.
Hmm.
Um, 10 cards per pack, 6 packs per box. Look for 2 on card autos and 1 auto relic per box on average. That seems pretty solid for $400.
You have me sold because the sell sheet, every card appears to be on card, but sometimes you can't see the stickers on that stuff. If for
It
that
says
price point, and you're
two.
giving me two on card autos, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean $3.99 for 3 autos in the box. I mean that's pretty freaking solid. I mean
On
for
card, no doubt.
for today's for today's era of cards, I mean if this was football or basketball and you're giving me 3 autos in a box, that's a minimum $1,000 box, easy.
Yeah, I like
Easy.
it. I
So,
think it's going to be popular, and then I'll be interested to see like every product that comes out. The breakers will break it through the PYTs, and then it's so popular that the next week of PYTs is they're all $100 more because the
yeah.
second round of buying, the secondary market sales are through the roof, and everyone upcharges you. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
looks like this is gonna drop June 15th.
Yeah, I think it's going to do well. I can't wait for the full checklist to come out, but
Well,
uh,
speaking of checklists,
love to look at it.
why don't you run us through some rookies to look out for? Anybody
Well,
that you
there ain't much. It's slim pickings, man. Tops is running with Wander Franco and just leaving everything else for Series 2 and Tops update. I mean, got a couple notables I think that are in Series 1. You got the Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh. I mean, I was following him in the minors for a while and he was doing well there, but he didn't impress last year, but he's still in high regard, at least as a defensive catcher. You got Jaron Duran in with the Red Sox. But as far as rookie cards go, the dude's 25 or 26 years old, but I still think there'll be some demand for his cards. Brandon Marsh with the Angels. You got Gavin Sheets, and I think Jake Berger's in there too. They'll have rookie cards in Series 1, but for the most part, it's not a stellar class of rookie cards to be chasing in Series 1 here. If
so
Wander will be the main focus.
walk me through this. There's a series 1 that releases basically next week. And then there's a series 2 or update that releases later in the season, and then there'll be
Nope.
more rookies that are designated in series 2.
There's 330 cards usually in Series 1, there's 330 cards in Series 2, and then there's update after that.
Oh
So
jeez.
it's 3 different
And
products.
there's 3 different groups of rookies that are in each one of those products.
Yeah, so half your veterans that didn't make the Series 1 checklist, they'll now be in Series 2. So, for example, say Juan Soto doesn't have a Series 1 2022 card. You'll know he'll be in Series 2, and that'll be his 2022 tops will be in Series 2. You're only
So
getting half the pool with the first release. And
Okay.
then depending on timing of when people get called up and start their major league service time, et cetera, the hobby this will decide who can maybe be a rookie card versus a call up with a later release product.
And do they have to like print those and make sure that they get the little rookie card stamp on some of that? It's like it seems like it's a last minute thing as far as like, oh, this person's been up for this many games, so we're now going to classify him as a rookie, and then the product drops in what, October?
Series two, no, series two, I think will be out before that. Updates, updates usually the end of the year, and series two will be somewhere in the middle, and then they'll figure out Topps Chrome from there.
Fair enough. Yeah, baseball's confusing.
Not really.
Guy, there's three different releases. There's different players that come out in different things, and we categorize guys as rookies at different times of the year. That's more confusing than baseball and football.
Just with Topps guy. But yeah, I agree. The rookie card stuff can be confusing. They swear nothing's changed. I mean, to me, it seems like it changed. But
Yeah, make
that
up your
whole
mind.
controversy over Beckett making Wander the rookie card, in the checklist versus now in 2022, they'll have the logo and everything. But
Make
it's
up your
all
mind.
yeah, I know. The bottom line is, I think if it has the RC on it, that'll be the draw.
Yeah.
Doesn't really
Um,
matter. Either it has it on there or it doesn't. That's all you need to know.
Fair enough. And then you have one baseball investment for us this week. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
as I was saying to you off air, I was just looking, just kind of a blanket name to throw at you because I think he's at some hobby lows across the board after a pretty dismal 2021 and his first season with his new team, the New York Metropolitans, and that's Francisco Lindor.
Ooh. All
Yeah,
right.
so the Mets, Mets, I mean, we'll see what they do after the CBA ends and see what else they're going to add. But they've already added some pretty big impact names. They added Scherzer to the staff. They're looking to rebound from last year, and in particular, Lindor had the worst year of his career, so he's looking to rebound off his. I don't know, he hit like 230 or something. Uh,
There's definitely some interest in Mr. Lindor. I'm looking at his tops 2015 update,
yeah, so he's got
and
his rookie card logos are in 2015, and his first Bowmans are in 2011. So
so off season November, this card PSA 10 was in the $80 to $90 range, and then over the last couple of months, spiked all the way up to 122. So definitely some interest, but at one point during the season last year, this card was all the way up at $400.
yep. And if Mets are playing well and he rebounds, I think you're going to see his car. And I'm talking blanket across the board, Lindor. I think if you pick up anything raw of his from 2015, 2011, you're going to see, as long as the Mets are playing well and he returns to his 30 home run form, you're gonna get some return on anything of Lindor you buy, graded or not.
Well, you can find a stack of PSA 9s. They're going for less than $20, and at one point they were selling for 160.
It's a
So
great strategy. I know dudes that have is that a
bought.
word? They've bought over 100 Bo Bichette PSA 9s at less than $20, and
Yeah.
they're gonna kill it.
Yeah, I mean, if you can find them in lots, I mean, because obviously trying to buy those things off eBay and paying for $5 a clip for shipping sucks. But I mean, if you could find lots of some of these things, there's definitely opportunities with some of these really cheap PSA 9s for guys that can go up. Because you know, even last year when he was having a terrible season, the card was still at $60. So if it's at 19.95 now and it goes up to $60, you tripled your money.
Yeah, you do that 10, 20, 30 times over, you're doing well there. I mean, now listen, his first Bowman autographs, because he's still a highly regarded individual, but his graded autographs, they're scarce. There aren't a lot of them. So they're still big bucks. So, I mean, that's not something I'm looking into here. But anything else across the board on Lindor, you have a good shot.
Yeah, his auto 2011 Bowman Chrome Draft Auto Pop 84.
Yeah, double digits, right.
Last sale was 650. That
And
was
there's a
back
couple
in
up, but there's
December.
not a lot. Yeah, they're just not there.
I mean, honestly, you may be able to snake a deal because the sale before the 650 closed at 310 in December, 480 in November, and 280 in October.
Okay.
So You never know, but there's only eight. Obviously, there's only 84 of them, so you'd have to really get lucky in order to snag one.
Yeah, it's just one of those names. I'm at a show, and you'll find Lindor in bins that people don't have out. Grab them, grab them, grab them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. Any other baseball you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
All right, fantastic.
Just get this CBA done so we can play some ball already. And we
Yes,
got the universal DH. That's literally all we know.
yeah, I know that
So
you.
no longer do I have to watch pitchers hit.
I know that.
Thank God.
Do I
Jesus
give you the
Christ.
floor for your get off my lawn rant about designated hitters?
No, I listen. I consider myself more of a baseball purist than not, but like I don't want to see pitchers hit. I don't want to see them bunt. I don't want you getting cute and batting them eighth in the lineup because you think that does something. It's just stupid. Now, there's big fantasy impact here because I used to only draft at auction National League pitchers
Oh
because
gosh,
generally speaking,
we're gonna go
they
down a
they,
rat.
they
We're gonna go down a rabbit
yeah,
hole
you,
here.
you, they the bottom half of National League's lineups usually suck, including the pitcher. You get a free couple strikeouts with every National League pitcher, and then look at all the National League pitchers that go to the AL and their ERAs have one a full run higher and such. But that has nothing to do with cards.
Are we done? Are we done yet?
I'm excited for the DH everywhere.
All right, fantastic. So happy. All right, so we'll close out on a little bit of football. Obviously, Super Bowl is coming up Sunday in a couple of days. So if you're sitting on Burrow or Stafford and any of those other guys that are at all-time highs and you're not planning on holding them long term, probably a good strategy to dump them before the game if you can.
Before the game.
Yeah. Otherwise, you better hope that whoever you're holding wins. Because if you look at Mahomes and some of these guys from last year, I mean, massive, massive drop offs right after the Super Bowl. So yeah, keep that in mind. And then football products. A couple things to note as far as if any of you are looking for some of the new products that are coming out, other than Contenders, which comes out March 11th, you're going to be waiting a little while. Prism pushed back again. So that originally was slated for January. Then it got pushed back to March. Now we're looking at an April release. And Football Select, Panini Select, not dropping until May. So, you're talking next year's draft or this year's draft class is going to get drafted right around when these are coming out. I don't know when the draft is, but it's usually April, May, and you could literally
April.
have,
It's always April.
yeah, you could literally have this year's class already cemented in before Select comes out. So it's going to be interesting to see. This is the first time since the big hobby boom that these products are coming out so late. We're in the middle of baseball. Draft's already happened. Football doesn't start up for another 3 months. So it's going to be curious when some of the rookies, your Mac Jones and Lawrence cards that come out of these, whether or not they're going to drive the type of demand that they would have had it come out, last December, like, last year's Prism did.
Yeah, I mean, part of me wants to say maybe it doesn't, but the other part wants to say people are gonna be so starved for product that they don't care. They'll just maybe it drives it up more.
Well,
Maybe people are all over it because they're just dying to have it.
I mean, I guess it's a double-edged sword because, you have this year, you guys that were, Fields and Lawrence that, were expecting a lot out of them, and then they had terrible seasons on terrible teams. And, I think that drove the value down. But this year, if the products don't come out until April and May, these guys aren't going to set foot on the field for months. So there's nothing to say, pump it up or bring it down. So the FOMO may rule the world here and, push those prices up. Or people look back and say they didn't have a great season. The Jaguars ain't getting any better, you know. So is Lawrence going to suck again? And do I want to be spending thousands of dollars on him?
Doug Peterson doesn't do it for you.
Not exactly. And,
He won the friggin' Eagles a Super Bowl guy. One of the worst days ever as a Giant fan.
Uh, okay.
No, not going to turn around. Not going to turn around T-Law for you.
Uh, I mean, I'm not going to say that he will or won't, but I mean, until they can get him some people he can throw the ball to, or somebody that can block for him. I mean, he had multiple games where he was on his ass a lot. I mean, those are two big pieces that they really got to fit for Jacksonville in order for them to start winning games and for him to produce. I mean, he had 30 touchdowns this year, I think, if memory serves me correctly, which
That
is
would be the quietest 30 touchdowns in the entire world. Not that I follow the
I'm
Jaguars heavily,
almost
but
positive.
you just shocked the hell out of me. He didn't throw a touchdown for like 9 weeks to end the season. There's no way he threw
No,
30.
12. I'm sorry. I don't know where I
Yeah,
saw 30.
yeah.
12. My bad.
Jesus Christ, guy.
That's my
30
bad. I don't
touchdowns.
know why. Maybe that was projected or
He
something.
literally, I think, went 9 weeks without throwing a touchdown.
Yeah, 12. 12 TDs, 17 interceptions. So yeah, I mean that's a
I mean, that's
question.
bad for.
Yeah.
I mean, we always see these stud first over quarterbacks. They struggle. All the great ones usually struggle early. I mean, that's rough.
Not Joe Cool, Joe Burrow. You know, he played decent until he turned his leg into paper mache last year.
Yeah.
And now obviously he's having the year that he's having this year. So but
Yeah, he's just yeah. I think I mean, if Jesus he wins a Super Bowl, forget it. You're not gonna be able to touch his cards for a long time, just because the
yeah.
way he carries himself. I mean, I would love for him to be my. I just like the way he carries himself. He's just so likable to me that I would want to buy his card just because of that.
Well,
And then he's a winner.
considering you got guys like Michael Irvin that are literally coming out and basically saying he's the fucking coolest white guy in the NFL. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
paraphrased statement.
swag factor's high.
Yeah, the swag. I believe Irvin used the statement of something like he's got some stank on it or something along those lines. Is the quote that he had today about Burrow. I mean, everybody is up on the Burrow train, and if the Bengals win, I would agree. You're going to see just through the roof. I mean, you really want to take a gamble, buy some Burrow before the game.
Before even at a high price,
Yeah,
yeah,
even at a high
yeah.
price, and if they win, I mean, you'll see a 2 or 3x on some of that stuff. Find a
Oh,
two
that
or
stuff,
$300
and that stuff
card.
will go nuts for months
Yeah,
afterwards.
I mean, people are going to be all over that stuff. And if you have some 2020 wax, good for you. Like if you bought some of that when it came out in between Burrow and Herbert, and if Burrow wins the Super Bowl, that stuff's going to be whew, crazy
Who's your
money.
money on, guy? I
Um,
believe the line. What's the line? 4.5.
4.5 Rams. Um, Obviously, with any Super Bowl, I hope it's a good game. But gun to my head, money down, I'm taking the Rams. I think there's
Yeah,
way too much Burrow hype, and the Rams are just quietly sailing along here, and people forget that Burrow got put on his ass 9 times in the first round of the playoffs by
yeah,
a
and that's not
team.
Aaron Donald and Von Miller.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's going to be a major factor in the game, and if I had to put money down on who's going to win, my money's on the Rams. Whether or not they'll cover 4.5, I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to take the spread or just take the money line and put
Yeah,
it down.
I'm usually wrong. My gut says the Rams should have no problem with their defense. But with that being said, I'm kind of leaning taking the Bengals with the points.
Well, everybody wants to take the Bengals. They want to see Joe
Yeah,
Cool
that.
come out and sling it and lead the Bengals to a title. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm just for any Super Bowl, give me a good game. I'd love to see like a 31-27 finish, and let's take it down to the last drive and have something good to watch. That's all I want. All right, guy. Hodgepodge, and 58 minutes later, here we are. So
Pretty smooth for hodgepodge, I thought.
yeah, we got a little deep today. We got a little hypothetical and went into some conversation. So definitely a first for us on that note. But yeah, we'll wrap up. Everybody enjoy the Super Bowl, and we will see you next week.